if you're a parent, if you're an adult parent now, like my wife and I are, we're basically empty nesters. I mean, we have one left in school, but boy, she's got an independent nature, and our youngest and is doing pretty good, juggling a lot of things, especially with the way the pandemic's been. And then 3 other children, 30 years of age and under, who are essentially now financially independent, career independent, living independent, living their best life, living their life. And yeah, of course, we live things vicariously through them, but we're not joined at the hip in any other way than family, blood, love, and caring. But not in, paying all the bills. We have enough of our own, and we've been there and done that. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I think I'm lucky there. But I know a lot of other people are in a situation where it's a lot trickier. Let's bring in the good doctor to talk about that today. Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing, and the podcast always at drjohnb.com. Good morning, sir. Welcome in.
Well, good morning to you, Dave, and I think that's a good prelude, because one of the most difficult situations for parents is when they have adult children who are not responsible, and they're in the role of a codependent parent with irresponsible child. Each becomes irresponsible in such relationships, and really there can't be an adult relationship with them. For clarification, I'm not talking about a situation where a child is in crisis and it's appropriate for the parent to step in and help the child get through it. No, in this situation, talking about the child who's irresponsible, sometimes even demands that the parent save them and take on their own responsibility.
Right.
The parent really, has to stop being the savior, even if it seems like the right thing to do. And these type of situations include when the children just never can keep a job, need money constantly, they're financially irresponsible, always need money, they're irresponsible and demand the parents do the parenting. They're children who bully and demean the parents to get what they want. And there are even children who can charm their parents as a means to effectively get what they desire. And really, this happens more than you might think. And what really, it may not be a huge number, but I take that back. The percentage may not be that high, but the number is quite high if you add them up. Now, in order for the parent and the child to really become responsible and have a relationship that can be mutually loving and caring, these are the kinds of things that the parent has to do. You can't allow the child to define you in a negative way that makes you give in to what they want all the time. 2, you can't allow bullying tactics to be used to shame you into doing irresponsible behaviors. 3, you need to make sure you will not give a yes or no answer when something is requested of you without having a day to think about it. You have to recognize there must be a time you say no after a constant string of irresponsible behaviors. And really, your children have to really swim on their own. And then you have to encourage your child to be successful whenever you get the litany that they will give you of problems they have. And then you have to recognize the codependent relationship is destructive emotionally to both of you, that you're equally a party to this problem. And then, in addition to that, you can seek out an experienced therapist to help you with this if you feel it would be helpful. But this is more common than you might think, particularly in the age of COVID, which can even magnify the needs of someone who won't be responsible. So it's a difficult situation because parents so often, out of love and caring, really don't allow the person to move forward and be responsible for themselves. And the person is more than willing to continue this really emotionally destructive and bad relationship for both.
Doc, what about parents who, and some will say, okay, you're being harsh, Dave, here, but what about the generation we have of, let's be honest, helicopter parents who've helped create this monster by always helicoptering in, bringing the 7th Cavalry to fix any problem, no matter how small, mundane, because, quote unquote, that's what they do. They can never let kids sometimes fail on their own, because from failure can come victory and success as you dust yourself off and learn from what you did wrong and vow not to do it again, or at least less. And I think parents have helped to make some of this monster. Do you agree or no?
Well, I do agree. It's not been intentioned, of course. The goal has been to be helpful, but
Right.
Often the parent is so intertwined in the relationship that they really generate dependence. even if they don't say it, if they keep paying the bills for someone who could, quote, never find the right job, they're really not helping the child get to the point that they get jobs. They're going to have to get along with supervision. They're going to have to move forward. They're going to have to make good decisions. No.
Right.
And then when you have the child, it could be a divorce, okay, as a situation, but they don't want to parent the child. They say, aren't you going to help me? What am I going to do? And before you know it, you have the grandparents being the primary parent. So it is important. You want to give the helping hand. You want to give good advice, but you can't be the one who's carrying the child. And often the child becomes a very difficult person, and then the parent all of a sudden becomes difficult. It becomes a very difficult, unworkable, unmanageable situation, which sadly can end up with two people being enormously angry at each other. But it's critical that the parent become in charge of themselves, and they help the child by finally saying, you're going to have to go forward on your own. If there's a crisis of a type that's reasonable, we can help. But you are going to have to be responsible and move on, and even give a timeline. If a child lives in your house, and they have to move on, and if they're there, they have to pay something. That they have to be in the process of moving on. And this is very hard to do, because once these relationships develop, say the helicopter parent, you can have a 40, 50-year-old and on your hands, even though it's normally a little younger than that, but really a 25, 30-year-old who won't move on and gives you every reason why they can't succeed in life.
It's exactly right. I mean, this is, this is the original. People talk now about cutting the cord. That means the cable company. This is the original mindset, cutting the cord between child and parent, and you have to do it. But I understand how hard it is for some people to be able to do that, or think if it doesn't go perfectly right that they've done something wrong. I mean, your whole job as a parent was to prepare your child at some, but your job is to nurture them, bring them up, keep them safe from undue harm, but not every scrape and nick, and to teach them to stand on their own 2 feet, think for themselves, act for themselves, and to be financially and in every way independent. And if it fails, you feel like that's on you, and you can hit the reset button. It's awfully hard to do. What do you tell people who come to you with this issue, and how do you tell them to approach cutting that cord, the one that they can't see anymore, but there it is. It's right there.
Well, I gently let them know that what they do doesn't succeed. It hasn't succeeded. The fact that they've come to talk to me shows they recognize there's a problem. And they'll still often fight it. Well, I do love my child, and my child has had these things occur. And I can say yes, yes, yes. And there may be many truths to this, but ultimately the child has to be launched on their own. And if you are in a situation where you're helping someone who has had an issue come up that maybe does require help, like a horrible divorce or losing an important job, okay, the job is to help people move forward, not to continue having them with you or always needing every month, I need something for this, for that. And then often these persons still will buy things for themselves. Well, I need something for me too. No, the main thing is that you love the child by helping the child move forward in life. And when you're an adult and they're an adult, and you find yourself continuing to pay their way, do things that are far beyond what an adult does for another adult, you just have to know you have to cut the cord. And you have to realize you're an equal part of the problem. You may be a loving parent, and the child may even love you. But
That's
you have
it.
to, as a loving parent, you have to launch them and say, no mas, there needs to be an ending to this. Very hard, Dave, because so often these lives are so intertwined, and there's so much guilt involved and so much overprotection. And actually, a lot of parents desire the involvement, and they don't realize that really the involvement is destructive for both. So it's a tough one, but it's one that a person can overcome if they finally come to grips with the problem and recognize that they have to be the adult, and they have to really make sure that the child is an adult, and they may have to fall. And that's part of the process of, like you say, dust yourself up, and you have to move forward in life.
Wow, and it's a whole other segment at some point where we would talk about that, parents who can't stop being direct involvement parents, and they're trying to string it out when it was never designed to be that way. Think of yourself when you were 20, 21, 22 years of age, and I think of the same thing. It was all about freedom, baby. Yeah, we're going to go attack the world. And maybe there would be, if you got really messed up, a soft landing, but you'd have to get off that mattress pad underneath the high jump and get back and try it again. That's just it. You have to do it as a child, and parents have to be willing to let that child go and not have it become a familial burden relationship. The good doctor here is Dr. John Braccio, Ph.D., Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing, Michigan. drjohnb.com for the podcast here. Always great to talk to you, Doc. Take care. Stay safe till next week, okay?
Same to you, my friend. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. We're back in a moment. Morning Wake Up, and we'll take you to the Polish-Ukrainian border live. 1320 WILS.